All right, who's here? One person and 2 likes. How does that work? I don't know how that works. Millionaire Douse, KJ, good to see you. All right. The channel lives for now. All is uncertain. All right. Oh, well, KJ, in all honesty, I am a bit sad that I'm not doing Twitch because the functionality on the video, the live streaming is really cool. Being able to share screens and stuff like that. I still might try a Twitch one anyway, just for the fun of it. The potential for trolling in Twitch is higher. I'm a bit of a troll myself. I don't mind the trolls. Actually, I downloaded all of my major videos today. So I have them on 2 separate drives. I have some good backups. Now, I mean, they're not the best quality, but what are you going to do? It's better. I mean, worst comes to worst, I have them. Okay. All right, let's get started. We jumped out. We were started with 1. Now we're at 10, 11, so we can get started here. As you can tell, I'm not in the cabin anymore in West Virginia. I am here in New Jersey, where I'll be for a bit, probably at least a month. We'll see what happens. Yes, a much more boring background. No more tomahawks and Native American wood carvings. All right. Actually, I have OBS, John. And I have used OBS. All right. So let's get started. We'll do our little bit of chanting to start off. Let's do Paragamino Gata. Oh yeah, Jay and Silent Bob is a New Jersey cultural icon. All right, so we'll do our chanting. Page 75. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Appakate manusesu ye jana paragamino attayang ittara pajja tirameva nudavanti ye chako sammadakate dhamme dhammanuvattino te jana paramessanti machudeyang suduttarang kanhang dhammang vippayaya sukhang bhavetta pandito anokang agamma viveke yataduramang tatra biratim mecheya hitva kameya chinkano pariyodapeya attanang chitta kele si pandito yesang sambuddhi angesu sammachittang subhavitang Adanna patinissagge anupadaya yerata. Kina sava juti manto te loke parinibbuta. All right, English. Those who cross over. There are few among humans who go to the further shore. The rest of them run about here on this shore. But those well established in Dhamma, those who practice Dhamma, are among those who will cross over beyond the realm of death, so difficult to escape. Abandoning the way of darkness, cultivating the bright, the wise go from home to homelessness, which for others is hard to enjoy. Desiring that rare delight, renouncing pleasure, owning nothing of defilements of the mind, the wise person should cleanse himself. Those whose mind are well established in the factors of enlightenment, relinquish attachments and delight not in clinging. They, untainted and radiant in this very world, attain Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. That's a beautiful, beautiful simile of running up and down the shore. we're like, crazy, wacky, erratic monkeys running up and down the shore. And only a few of us actually get in the water, become stream enterers, right? They enter the stream to cross over to the far shore. So that is our goal as those of us who follow the Noble Eightfold Path. The goal is to enter the stream and then cross it. All right. Let me just check the chat here. Hello, Elaine. Welcome. Yeah, I was down pretty much all weekend. I was briefly up Thursday night. And then I was down again on Friday. That's the way it goes. All right. Hello, Sierra. Welcome. Okay, friends. Welcome to another Dhammapalooza. The channel was brought back from the dead this afternoon. So we were able to have a Dhammapalooza just in time. Very good. Hopefully the AI gods will not decide that it doesn't like the channel tomorrow and take it down again. We'll have to see. So welcome to Dhammapalooza. What we do here at Dhammapalooza is have a festival of Dhamma, 2 hours of Dhamma in its various forms. We did some chanting just now. We'll do some guided meditation later, right? In between that, we might do a variety of things. I might give a talk on a specific topic. I might do some Q&A, might do some reading, maybe some community discussion. That depends on you guys, actually. Right? So this is a community event. It's not just me. I'm the only one with a video. But everybody comes together here as a community to discuss with each other. Right? So if you're talking to each other in the chat, that's not interrupting me. You're doing exactly as you should. It's very good when there's lots of good Dhamma discussion and practice discussion in the chat on Dhammapalooza. So you're welcome to talk in the chat. And as I usually do, I give a couple minutes here to start off for anybody. If you have a topic you'd like me to talk about, if you have a question you'd like me to answer, if you have something you'd like the community to discuss, now's the time to type that in the chat. You can type a question in the chat or a topic anytime. I keep an eye on the chat. And if nobody has anything, we'll do some sutta reading. So if you have a question or a topic or something you'd like the community to discuss, like maybe practice struggles, something like that, then you can type it in the chat. Right off the bat, a millionaire comes with a very, very hard question. Bante, I have a dummy question. That's not a dummy question. This is a very hard Hard question. This is not an easy thing to do. How do I get music out of my head? Well, I'll give you my answer. So far, I don't know. Music is an interesting thing, right? So when I left for the monastery, right, and I went to live and I left lay life and I was at the monastery, I had some interesting experiences, right? I would be in the woods and it would be completely silent. And I would hear like music. It's almost like if it was really, really far away and you were barely hearing it. And I thought, oh, that must be the neighbors somewhere around the mountain, right? But then I realized, actually, no, that was me. Even though I was in such quiet solitude, my mind was quiet. I wasn't thinking. I wasn't lots of monkey mind chattering. That was not there. My mind was very quiet. I was alone in nature, very quiet. But yet, my mind still had music, right? There was still a little bit of music, even though it sounded like it was far away. And then I started noticing that every once in a while, my mind would just decide to start singing a song. And, you know, I'm sure there's a connection somewhere. Sometimes I understand the connection. Sometimes I don't. Like one of the first songs that I remember being totally infestation in my head that I couldn't get out in my early days at the monastery was that Hanson song. Ba, 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 ba. Right? I hated that song. I never voluntarily listened to that song ever in my life. Yet that song kept infesting my head. Right? So it was a really interesting thing, right? You really investigate these things. My theory about music is that it's on a different, what would you call it? A different neural network, a different node than thought, than verbal thought. Because even when my verbal thought is completely silenced, music can still be there, right? So this is an interesting thing. So it goes with like what you can do about it is investigate it, right? Like sometimes a song is connected to an emotion. Sometimes a song is connected to a particular thought, right? Like if I'm getting, you know, motivated and pumped up, I got like, you know, Eye of the Tiger comes up or something like that, right? So this is part of what we do as humans. We make these connections, just like a certain smell is connected to a memory, right? Same thing with a music, right? Music is connected to memories. It's connected to various actions in the past, thoughts in the past, right? And if those kind of come back up again, so too will the music, right? So it's a matter of, you're not pushing the music away. You're not pushing it away. That's not how it works, right? Because you can't push it away. What you can do is investigate it, bring your mind, focus maybe on your breath if you're sitting, right? Investigate it, follow the line of reasoning as to line of conditioning on how that music arose. And then also, don't give it any energy. If your mind wants to sing, let it sing. But you say, okay, I'm going to focus on my breath. I'm going to focus on my walking meditation, whatever, right? Just observe it. Just investigate it, right? And don't if you're in the middle of meditation, then all of a sudden, bop or whatever song comes to your mind, it's okay. Right? You trying to force it away. You can try to force it away. Be my guest. See what happens. You do that a couple of times and you'll realize that forcing is not the way to do it. Right? But to investigate it, to understand it, and then even to ignore it, to not give it any energy, not trying to push it away, not getting wrapped up in it. Just let it be. It's like the first time my mind went completely silent for more than a couple seconds in my life. Right? I was at work and I had a break and I went to do my walking meditation like I always did. And then my mind wanted to sing Sweet Caroline. So I was like, okay, whatever. You want to sing? I'm just going to walk and follow my feet. I'm just going to try to concentrate and focus and put my awareness and attention on my feet. And then my mind's, singing Sweet Caroline, bum, bum, bum. And it's just going. And I'm just, okay, whatever. You do whatever you want. I'm just going to be practicing here. And then after a couple of minutes, I noticed and I was jolted and that there was nothing in my mind. The monkey mind was completely silent, no music, nothing, right? And that was a big thing for me. And it all started because the song was in my mind and I just let it be and just practiced, right? So if music comes to your mind, especially if you're musically inclined, right? I mean, I played 7 years of piano, 14 years of guitar, somewhere around there, right? If you're a musically inclined person, especially if you hear, you understand, you kind of have a musical intonation, right? You have beats and you see beats and hear beats and all that kind of stuff, then that is going to be part of your experience, right? You just want to investigate it, observe it, and then practice letting it go. And I see the chat kept moving as I was talking. I did a little, that was a good question, and it needed a little bit of a deep answer. Bante Pamuto's on here. Hello, Bante. Welcome. All right. But that's definitely not a dummy question, Amelia. That's a very good question. All right, Daniel Hale has a question. Please discuss right concentration if you've the time and inclination. Well, right concentration is fairly easy. It's jhana. Right? It's jhana. That's what it is. If you look it up, it's the 4 jhanas. Now, how to develop right concentration and the developing of it is a bit harder than that. It's not that easy. Right? But the Buddha tells us that right concentration is supported by all of the other factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. So if you're practicing morality, if you're practicing right effort, right mindfulness, all of that, the previous 7 factors will all be a support for the development of right concentration, samma samadhi, right? So if you want to try to get into jhanas and get deep meditation, it's not necessarily only just about sitting down, right? I'm going to just try to sit 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. Actually, you probably burn yourself out and make things worse, right? In a very brief sutta, it's only a paragraph, the Buddha says, if you want to abandon the 5 hindrances are what And we just talked about that last week, I believe. The 5 hindrances, because we read nutriments, right? The 5 hindrances are what hinder you from getting into jhanas. So the Buddha says, if you wish to abandon the 5 hindrances, practice satipatthana. See, this is when I talk to you guys, and when I say satipatthana, anapanasati over and over and over and over again, I'm not doing it for my own good or just because it's what I like. It's literally what the Buddha teaches and what you need to do, right? So these are important practices, right? So if you practice the 7 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path, then you will set a good groundwork for the development of deep states of samadhi, jhanas. When I finally had some experiences and I decided, okay, now it's time for me to learn about jhana, and I went to the 9-day jhana retreat at Bhavana Society, led by the last one that Bhante Ji ever did. Because after that, it was always a shared one. This one he did all 9 days. I was very lucky to be able to be a part of that. But anyway, the first 5 days, he never talked about anything jhana. He talked about the hindrances. Right? That's your hint, right? People get worried and people get so, oh, I need to know about all the different jhanas and da, 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 da. You're going ahead of yourself. There's so much groundwork that you need to set before you even have to worry about jhanas. If you see the nimitta, right, or if you get into the first jhana, then okay, now I need to, now I'm in jhanas. So let me understand what it is to be in jhanas, right? But until you get to that point, it's all groundwork. So don't even worry about, getting involved in all kinds of intricate, detailed discussions or readings about the jhanas and this jhana and that jhana, and this is what this says, and you have to make sure that you don't have vitaka vichara and piti sukha and yada 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 yada, right? Where you're barely doing any practice in any sati or you're barely practicing any sila, right? Are you practicing any dana? Right? Are you practicing satipatthana? Those are way more important. All right. Sierra, question. What's your view on humane euthanasia for pets? I hear another monk mention it's against the precepts. Makes sense, but I've worked in a veterinary field and have a hard time letting go of thinking that compassionate thing to do when your pet is suffering is to euthanize them, which is what I would want. Wrong view, I'm guessing. Can you speak to this? So, is euthanizing a pet killing? Basically, yes, it is. Is it maybe as bad karmically as like intentionally killing a human being? Probably not, but it is killing. And this is one of those things in life where so many things, most things are not black and white. Most things are not, this is absolutely good or this is absolutely evil. Most things are shades of gray, right? And something like this is one of those gray things, right? Because you have mixed feelings. You have the feeling of, I don't want them to suffer. But it's important to actually understand what's the reason you don't want them to suffer. Right? Is part of you saying you don't want them to suffer because you don't want to have to experience watching another being suffer? How much of it is from intentions and motivations related to you as opposed to the being? Because it's really easy to say, oh, no, it's totally, I don't want them to suffer, so we'll just kill them. That's an easy way. That's an easy thing that can have a lot of different motivations and intentions behind it. Right? So that's something that you have to investigate for yourself. Right? That's something that you have to think about. Right? And for some people, they think it, you know what? Even if it's bad karma, I take that karma on because I feel it's best for the animal. Right? I was more like that way. I've come a long way in this, in thinking about the value of letting things play out as they would. Right? Is that being, that suffering, right? How should I put this without sounding too cruel? I mean, is it something that you think that you can do to kind of take away that being suffering, or taking away the time that being still has for whatever intention you might have, right? So it's not something that is just people get wrapped up in things like compassion and things like that, and they think that just because they feel a certain way, it's automatically the right way to do it or the best way to do it. And that's not necessarily always the case. This is why something like this has to be thought about, investigated, and you have to judge and investigate your own feelings and intentions about that situation. Okay? It's not an easy thing. But it is quite clear. I mean, it's literally, so if I encourage somebody, Jack Kevorkian kind of stuff, right? If I encourage somebody, yeah, sure, no problem. If you want to end it, just, kill yourself. And then they do it, I'm not a monk anymore, right? If I encourage somebody to have an abortion and they go through with it and they do it, I'm not a monk anymore, right? These are all very clearly considered by the Buddha to be taking of life, which is why monks don't get involved in these things, right? We can't encourage it or anything like that. And, that's something that some lay people might have a trouble with, might have problems with, right? And, it is because for many people, something like this is a gray area, right? For me, it's not so gray as it used to be. It's not as gray as it used to be. It's a little bit more towards the black, I think. But it's up to you, right? Sometimes if you are a person that has connections and attachments in the world, sometimes you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, right? It's not easy. Sometimes, you take a karmic hit. It's up to you. But it is a complicated question. All right, just checking the chat here. Thank you, Tan Pamuto, for giving some advice from the senior Ajans. Much appreciated. One thing that we really don't like to see is suffering. We really don't like to see it. We want to try to alleviate it. Oftentimes we're trying to alleviate it in other people outside of ourselves when we're carrying around so much suffering inside of ourselves. All right. Okay, so just checking the chat here. Now there's another question. Chris is asking, Dear Venerable Sir, could you discuss how to do meditation in only 1 minute sessions every day, and why consistency is so indescribably important? That's easy. Either follow your breath for the minute, or you can do some standing or walking meditation, or you can simply just kind of bring awareness to your body, and then bring attention to whatever is most prominent that is arising, right? That's what you could do for your minute mindfulness. Consistency is important. Of course, it's important, yes. Because if you are, like Ajahn Chah talks about in one of his teachings, he talks about people who once a year go on a 7-day retreat, right? And he's basically talking about how, they go on this retreat and maybe they might get some insights and all kinds of stuff, but then a couple months after, they totally forgot everything. They're back to their old ways, their old habits. And it's like nothing changed, right? Because it's not consistent. Practicing every day, making it part of who you are, not just part of what you do, allows you to fully implement the path in your life and to practice it to the fullest. Not just half-assed, little bit here, little bit there. Sometimes on Tuesdays, sometimes on Saturdays. But it's every day. It's integrated into your life and who you are. And then there's no worrying about how many times am I meditating, for how long, how many minutes, yada, 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 all of these things. There's nothing to worry about there, because you're always practicing one way or the other. Hello, Bella and Gautam. Welcome. Huh. Wow, all those questions got in while I was still talking about the hearing music sound, huh? I was indeed trying to push the music away, a millionaire says. Yeah. Pushing it away just makes the song start all over from the beginning. Yeah. There's no pushing away anything in this practice. There's no repressing. right? There's no repressing or trying to avoid, right? There's no avoidance in Buddhist practice. You're trying to face and understand everything head on, right? It is what it is, what has arisen. It is there. You investigate it. Dallas wants to explain anatta to others. Oh boy. Jeez. Okay. I'll say it in one sentence. There is no permanent soul. There's only processes. That's it. Not too dissimilar to the modern theory, psychological theory of modular view of the mind. There is no permanent soul, only processes. But even that's not going to help. I find it not worth. I mean, actually, obviously, as a monk, if people ask a question, I have to explain it to you. But like as a layperson, I can't remember ever trying to talk to somebody about what anatta is. Ay, ay, ay. Chat jumping here. Okay, Elaine saying that the vet told he was cruel. Well, that is something that is, a vet, of course, would think that this is a cruel thing, right? That, you're easing somebody's suffering. So I understand that mindset. I was there too. I mean, I was a live and let live. You own, essentially, you are free to do as you will with what you own, which is your body. It's the first thing that you own. So if you wanted to get Jack Kevorkian to come over and do it, then that's no problem. Let him do it. But that was since I became a Buddhist and my own practice and getting deeper into it. That's changed. I've had, I don't know where I am in it, right? But it's definitely not where I was before, because it's a much more complicated question than people give it credit for. There is value to helping. Like, I think about my caregiving role with my wife, right? Like, to watching her kind of go through her death, right? And there is value to watching that process. There's value to kind of having that understanding that you can't take away somebody's suffering, right? You can only kind of be a support. There's value to experiencing that, as opposed to just kind of wishing it just ends. It's a tough question. I suspect it's, my development on this question is going to be still for many, many years to come. Oh, chat's jumping. Okay, here we go. Just reading the chat here. All right, so I guess we're caught up. I don't see any other questions or comments. So why don't we do a little reading? This one's not a long one. Majjhima Nikaya, number 55, with Jivaka. Yeah. So I have heard. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Rajagaha in the mango grove of Jivaka Komarabacha. Then Jivaka went up to the Buddha, bowed, sat down to one side, and said to the Buddha, "Sir, I have heard this. They slaughter living creatures specifically for the ascetic Gautama. The ascetic Gautama knowingly eats meat prepared on purpose. Knowingly eats meat prepared on purpose for him. This is a deed he has caused. I trust that those who say this repeat what the Buddha has said and does not misrepresent him with an untruth. Is their explanation in line with the teaching? Are there any legitimate grounds for rebuke or criticism?" Hello, Jose. Welcome. Jivaka, those who say this do not repeat what I have said. They misrepresent me with what is false and untrue. In 3 cases, I say that meat may not be eaten. It is seen, heard, or suspected. These are 3 cases in which meat may not be eaten. In 3 cases, I say that meat may be eaten. It is not seen, heard, or suspected. These are 3 cases in which meat may be eaten. So this is a monastic rule. And what this means is if you see that somebody is killing an animal specifically to feed to you, if you hear or you suspect that the animal was killed specifically to feed you, then you can't eat it. But otherwise, you can. So that's what the Buddha is saying here in terms of this rule. So now he goes and gives an example, gives a simile here. Take the case of a mendicant living supported by a town or a village. They meditate, spreading a heart full of metta to one direction, and to the second, and to the third, and to the fourth. In the same way, above, below, across, everywhere, all around, they spread a heart full of metta to the whole world, abundant, expansive, limitless, free of enmity and will. A householder or their child approaches and invites them for the next day's meal. The mendicant accepts if they want. When the night is past, they robe up in the morning, take their bowl and robe, and approach that householder's home, where they sit on the seat spread out. That householder or their child serves them with delicious alms food. It never occurs to them, it's so good that this householder serves me with delicious alms food. I hope they serve me with such delicious alms food in the future. They don't think that. They eat that alms food untied, uninfatuated, unattached, seeing the drawback and understanding the escape. Right? And so this line is very important to me. This is actually how I accept alms. Right? If somebody says, Bhante, what do you eat? Or what are your restrictions? I simply say that my stomach has trouble with very spicy foods. That's it. So then whatever somebody gives me, I eat it. Right? And sometimes it's not that pleasant. Sometimes my likes and dislikes and my taste buds are like, yeah. But I practice eating it anyway. And I don't try to, and if they're watching me, right, or if they're going to notice how much I've eaten, I try to make it so that it's hard for them to determine what I like and I dislike. It was really hard at the Indonesian temple. They started to, they knew what they put out and they knew what I ate. So they started feeding me more of what I chose. That was a hard one. But that's what they're very, very observant. That's what they do. But this is very important to me because I don't want to ever put an imposition on somebody, right? If I'm with somebody who eats vegetarian, I eat vegetarian. If I'm with somebody who eats vegan, I eat vegan. If I'm with somebody who eats gluten-free, I eat gluten-free. If I'm with somebody who eats a burger, I eat a burger. That's the way it is. All right? Whatever they eat is what I eat. Right? And that's what I tell people. I ask them, okay, so what are you? Right? Then that's what they eat. That's what I eat. Whatever they are is what I eat. Right? And I think that's a good way of doing it. All right? And that's exactly what, the Buddha is saying here. They eat it unattached. Right? And so this is kind of how I try to be. Right? Whatever I eat, because it's not about my own beliefs, my own likes and dislikes. I'm supposed to be abandoning those likes and dislikes. Right? I've never been a fish person. Not a fish person. In Indonesia, they like their fish, right? So they would put out fish. And so I practice eating various kinds of fish. And even maybe if I was kind of like, I still tried it anyway because I was like, you know what? I should get used to that because maybe they'll give me fish, right? So I should have the fish and it's good for you anyway. So, all that kind of stuff. So this is a very good line that I wanted to talk about specifically because it's very important in this sutta, right? This monk is practicing well, sending out lots of metta, and he's not saying, I only eat this, I only eat that. They eat that alms food untied, uninfatuated, unattached, seeing the drawback and understanding the escape. What do you think, Jivaka? At that time, is that mendicant intending to hurt themselves, hurt others, or hurt both? No, sir. Aren't they eating blameless food at that time? Yes, sir. So there's Buddha's example there, right? So is this monk blameless? Or is this monk full of blame, right? Because of what they might eat? Or are they blameless? The Buddha says they're blameless. Yes, sir. So I have heard that Brahma abides in love. Now I've seen the Buddha with my own eyes, and it is the Buddha who truly abides in love. Oh, by the way, one thing I didn't mention, Jivaka was the Buddha's chief doctor. So whatever doctor, like the Surgeon General or the Dr. Phil or whatever doctor you want to say, Dr. House, whoever. Jivaka was the numero uno doctor of the Sangha, right? And, you might have heard for monastics, there's certain medical conditions that would, basically make you not being able to be to become ordained. And that started because what people were doing were they're like, oh, look, Jivaka is like the best doctor, right? These monks, they get the best doctor and they get the best food. we should become monks, right? So people were trying to become monks just for the fringe benefits, just for the, just for the medical care, right? And then, so then the Buddha laid down these rules. No, 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 no. That's not how this works, right? Which is very valid because there's lots and lots of bad reasons for wanting to become a monastic. And medical care is one of them. There's no jivakas around anymore. So the monks don't necessarily get the best medical care anyway, at least outside of the Buddhist countries. I'm sure in the Buddhist countries they do. All right. Now I've seen the Buddha with my own eyes. It is the Buddha who truly abides in love. Any greed, hate, or delusion that might give rise to ill will has been given up by the realized one, cut off at the root, made like a palm stump, obliterated, and is unable to arise in the future. If that's what you were referring to, I acknowledge it. That's exactly what I was referring to. Take the case, Jivaka, of a mendicant living supported by a town or village. They meditate, spreading a heart full of compassion. Oh, and by the way, if you guys have ever heard Ajahn Brahm talk about what the villagers gave them in Thailand, I've never had to deal with anything like that, right? Right? They, the Ajahn Chah area, they were around lots of really poor farmers. So they would get like, things like frogs and bugs and all kinds of things that most Westerners don't have to deal with, right? So you can hear all kinds of stories from Ajahn Brahm and the Ajahns under Ajahn Chah talk about those kind of the foods that they had to eat. Oh yeah, yeah. Adriana says, and rats. Yeah. So. Take the case, Jivaka, of a mendicant living supported by a town or a village. They meditate, spreading a heart full of compassion. They meditate, spreading a heart full of rejoicing. They meditate, spreading a heart full of equanimity to one direction, and to the second, and to the third, and to the fourth. So the Brahma Viharas here. In the same way, above, below, across, everywhere, all around, they spread a heart full of equanimity to the whole world, abundant, expansive, limitless, free of enmity and ill will. A householder or a child or their child approaches and invites them for the next day meal. The mendicant accepts if they want. When the night has passed, they robe up in the morning, take their bowl and robe, and approach the householder's home, where they sit on the seat spread out. That householder or their child serves them with delicious alms food. It never occurs to them, it's so good that the householder serves me with delicious alms food. I hope they serve me with more delicious alms food in the future. They don't think that. They eat that alms food untied, infatuated, unattached, seeing the drawback and understanding the escape. What do you think, Jivaka? At that time, is that mendicant intending to hurt themselves, hurt others, or hurt both? No, sir. Aren't they eating blameless food at the time? Yes, sir. Sir, I have heard that. Brahma abides in equanimity. Now I've seen the Buddha with my own eyes. And it is the Buddha who truly abides in equanimity. Any greed, hatred, or delusion that might give rise to cruelty, negativity, or repulsion has been given up by the realized one, cut off at the root, made like a palm stump, obliterated, and is unable to arise in the future. If that's what you were referring to, I acknowledge it. That's exactly what I was referring to. Now, this is also interesting, right? This is interesting as well. Jivaka, anyone who slaughters a living creature specifically for the realized one or the realized one's disciple makes much bad karma for 5 reasons. When they say, go fetch that living creature, this is the first reason. When that living creature experiences pain and sadness as it's led along by a collar, this is the second reason. When they say, go slaughter that living creature, this is the third reason. When that living creature experiences pain and sadness as it's being slaughtered, this is the fourth reason. When they provide the realized one or the realized one's disciple with unallowable food. This is the fifth reason. It's unallowable because the animal was specifically killed for the Buddha and the monastics. Anyone who slaughters a living creature specifically for the realized one or the realized one's disciples makes much bad karma for 5 reasons. When he had spoken, Jivaka said to the Buddha, "It's incredible, sir. It's amazing. The mendicants indeed eat allowable food. The mendicants eat blameless food. Excellent, sir. Excellent. From this day forth, may the Buddha remember me as a lay follower who has gone forth, gone to refuge for life." Okay. Yes, a millionaire, exactly. It is intention. Intention counts. Any questions or comments on that sutta? I would give it in about 5 or 6 minutes. Maybe we can do our guided meditation. But until then, we have some time. The chat is quite silent today. It's okay. That happens sometimes. It's also quite a divisive topic, so maybe nobody has anything to say. Anything to say. Jose asked, should lay people follow that advice too? For example, not eating animals killed for us. So the Buddha does not give any dietary advice in terms of what you should or you shouldn't eat for lay people. So it's really up to you what you feel is most the best for you. You know, it's a divisive topic, and it's a topic, you know, that was divisive even at the time of the Buddha. Right, we have in one of the monastic rules the story of Devadatta, or not Devadatta, Devadatta, right, who was the Buddha's cousin who tried to kill him and all these kind of things, right? So he tried to split up the Sangha. He tried to cause a schism because he wanted to start his own Sangha. He wanted to be his own little Buddha with his own little group of monks, right? So he came to the Buddha and he says, we should make all of the monks follow these extra rules. And they were the Dhutanga rules, plus vegetarianism, right? And the Buddha did the most wise thing. It would take a lot to convince me that this is not the most wise course of action. The Buddha said that he would not make these extra rules mandatory to all the monks. But if the monks want to do these extra rules, they can, right? And so this is where all like the Dhutanga rules come from, like only eating out of your bowl, only using 3 robes, etc. All these things, right? So, but you can see, even 2,600 years ago, vegetarianism was a divisive topic. And the Buddha left it up to each individual person what they felt was best for their own choices. So that, to me, that's the way to go, right? Whatever each individual person feels, how they should make their choices, that's how they should make their choices. I mean, of course, it can be... Oh, okay, Sierra. Well, Thank you, Sierra. Have a good day. Have a good evening at work. Adriana says, might be a dumb question, but I can't remember if it's only body and speech that impacts karma or if it's always thoughts. It's all three. Most especially because your thoughts are what eventually lead to your words and your actions. All right, friends, let's do our guided meditation. So set your body up in whatever position is most comfortable for you, the position that you like to use. We'll begin by scanning through our body from bottom to top, starting with our feet. And as we scan through the body, we bring our awareness to whatever sensations arise in our field of view related to that body part, such as the feeling of the feet pressing against the floor or the cushion, feeling of the thighs pressing against the chair or the cushion. We do this so that we can check the balance of our posture in relation to that part of the body, and also to check to see if there's any small feelings of discomfort that after sitting for a while will turn into larger feelings of discomfort. So we want to take the time now as we scan through our body to adjust our posture so that we can put ourselves in the most stable and comfortable, pain-free position as possible. We can never fully eliminate pain and uncomfortable feelings in our meditation, but we can minimize them. We can work on developing our posture. Bring your awareness up through your ankles and your calves. Bring your awareness up through your knees, into your thighs, Bring your awareness up through your thighs to your pelvis and hip area. This is an especially important area for the stability of your posture. The position of your pelvis impacts the position of your spine and your upper body. Can cause leaning and slouching. So bring awareness and try to observe how this pelvic area impacts your posture and adjust as needed. If you're sitting on a cushion, it's always important to make sure that the sits bones, your buttocks, is evenly distributed on the cushion. Even if the cushion has an angle, one side is higher than the other, that can cause an imbalance in your posture and create uncomfortable feelings. Now bring your awareness up through your abs and your chest, checking to see that your spine is not being stretched or twisted, simply resting in its natural curvature. We don't want to put any pressure on the spine by having leaning and slouching. A bad posture causes the muscles in the back and the abdomen to strain, keeping the body up. And this is where most of back pain comes from meditation. The more stable and balanced your posture, the less pain there will be. Bring your awareness to your shoulders. Make sure your shoulders are hanging loosely, not scrunched up and tight. And then bring your awareness down through your elbows to your hands. The elbows and hands also play a role in the posture. Their placement can cause slouching and leaning. So be aware of how the elbows and hands affect the posture. Finally, bring your awareness to your head. Check to make sure that the head is balanced, the chin parallel to the floor. Think of your posture like a house. The lower body is the foundation. A firm foundation supports the rest of the house above. Each floor of the house supports the next floor above. Set up your posture in a way that supports the whole of your body. And when you're ready, let go of your body and take 3 deep breaths. Once you've taken your 3 deep breaths, let go of the breath. From here on in, you do not wish to manipulate or control the breath in any way. We simply want to observe and investigate the breath, to be with the breath as this body breathes in and breathes out. Your body has been doing this from the moment you were born and will continue to do so until the second you die. It doesn't need you to do its job. Your job is to simply abide with the breath, observe it, and investigate. You may find most prominent the air coming in and out of your nostrils. This is the most common place to put your awareness for mindfulness of breathing. But if you're having trouble, you may find most prominent the rise and fall of the chest. You can place your awareness there. Or you can abide this with the simple knowledge and understanding that this body is breathing in, this body is breathing out. As you're following your breath, you will get distracted. Your mind will get bored and will go to the past or the future, to the other side of the world or the galaxy. Anywhere but there with the breath. This is normal. You did not do anything wrong or fail as a meditator. This is the mind showing you how it works, showing you its craving. Whenever you get distracted away, whether it's from inside the mind, thoughts, or external distractions like sounds, whatever takes you away from your breath, first collect your mindfulness, fully acknowledge that you've become distracted away from the breath. Then practice letting go of that distraction by neither getting agitated and pushing it away, nor getting excited and wrapped up in it. Try to simply let it be. Let it go on its way as you return to the breath. Whenever you're distracted, doesn't matter how many times, no need to keep count. Simply acknowledge, let go, and return. Over and over. Lay down all your responsibilities, worries, and burdens. Put your world down for now and follow the breath. Every once in a while, check in with the status of your mind. Is your mind becoming more calm and tranquil or not? As it starts to become more calm and tranquil, you may begin to notice further, more subtle characteristics of the breath. Sometimes the breath is long and deep, sometimes short and shallow. If you can, start to observe how the breath is changing. Observe long and deep, short and shallow, flowing and changing, impermanence in the breath. Try to observe that as you follow the breath, this body breathing in and breathing out. Okay, friends. Slowly start to come back to the external, opening your eyes, becoming aware of what's in the room that you're in, the live stream. Check in with the state of your mind. See if you can compare it to the state of your mind before the meditation. What was your mind like before? And what's your mind like now? Douse left us, which is good. For him, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's good that he got some sleep. Okay, friends. So who's still with us here? We lost a couple people in terms of numbers, as to be expected. Adriana says, yes, the last half hour is where all the cool, most important people are on the stream, right? Isn't that like how they do it at parties? The after party, right? This is the after Dhammapalooza. Not quite, but close. All right. So I will start doing some reading. Dhamma After Hours. That's actually not a bad name for something. That could be a cool name for a Twitch stream. Dhamma After Hours. I like that. All right, so I will continue to read the Samyutta Nikaya verses as we have been. And if anybody has any questions or topics for the last half hour or so, you can type that in the chat. But for now, we are on I believe we're on 179, 1.79 Samyutta Nikaya verses. Provisions. How should provisions be tied up? What's the lair of wealth? What drags a person around? What in the world is hard to give up? What are many beings tied up with? Like birds in a snare. Provision should be tied up with faith. Glory is the lair of wealth. Desire drags a person round. Desire in the world is hard to give up. Many beings are tied up with desire like birds in a snare. Lamp. What's the lamp for the world? What in the world is wakeful? Who are one's work colleagues? What is one's walk of life? What nurtures the idle and the tireless, like a mother and her child? By what do the creatures who live off the earth sustain their life? Wisdom is the lamp for the world. Mindfulness in the world is wakeful. Cattle are one's work colleagues. and the furrow is one's walk of life. Rain nurtures the idle and the tireless, like a mother her child. The creatures who live on the earth sustain their life by rain. Without conflict. Who in the world has no conflict? Whose life is not lost? Who here completely understands desire? Who always lives as their own master? To whom do mother, father, and brothers bow when they're established? Who here, though of low birth, is bowed to even by aristocrats? Ascetics have no conflict in the world. The life of ascetics is not lost. Ascetics completely understand desire. Ascetics always live as their own master. Mother, father, and brothers bow to ascetics when they're established. Even though an ascetic is of low birth, they're bowed to even by aristocrats. Adriana says, "Oh my God, I wish cattle were my work colleagues." When I read that, I thought about the chickens. For 2 months, the chickens were my work colleagues. All right. (2.1) With Kassapa. So I have heard. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove in Athapindika's monastery. Then, late at night, the glorious god Kassapa, lighting up the entire Jeta's Grove, went up to the Buddha, bowed, stood to one side, and said to him, "The Buddha has revealed the mendicant, but not his instructions to the mendicant." "Well then, Kassapa, clarify this matter yourself." They should train in following good advice, and attending closely to ascetics, and sitting alone in hidden places, and in calming the mind. That's what the god Kassapa said, and the teacher approved. Then Kassapa, knowing that the teacher approved, bowed and respectfully circled the Buddha, keeping him on his right, before vanishing right there. (2.2) With Kassapa II. At Savatthi, standing to one side, the god Kassapa recited this verse in the Buddha's presence. Suppose a mendicant is a meditator freed in mind, if they want to reach the heart's peace, having known the arising and passing of the world. Healthy-minded, independent, that is their reward. (2.3) Magha. At Savatthi, then, late at night, the glorious god Magha, lighting up the entire Jeta's Grove, went up to the Buddha, bowed, stood to one side, and addressed the Buddha in verse. When what is incinerated, do you sleep at ease? When what is incinerated, is there no sorrow? What is the one thing whose killing you approve? When anger's incinerated, you sleep at ease. When anger's incinerated, there's no sorrow. Vatrabhu, anger has a poison root and a honeyed tip. The noble ones praise the slaying of anger, for when it's incinerated, there is no sorrow. 2.4, another with Magha. No, this is Maghada. At Savatthi, standing to one side, the god Maghada addressed the Buddha in verse. How many lamps are there that light up the world? We've come to ask the Buddha, how are we to understand this? There are 4 lamps that light, 4 lamps in the world. A 5th is not found. The sun blazes by day, the moon glows by night, while a fire lights up both by day and night. But the Buddha is the best of lights, the supreme radiance. (2.5) with Dhammapalooza. At Savatthi. Then late at night, the glorious god Dhammapalooza, lighting up the entire Jeta's grove, went up to the Buddha, bowed, stood to one side, and recited this verse in the Buddha's presence. This is what should be done by a Brahmin, unrelenting striving. Then with the giving up of sensual pleasures, they won't hope to be reborn. The Brahmin has nothing left to do, said the Buddha to Dhammapalooza, for they've completed their task. So long as a person fails to gain a footing in the river, the stream enter, footing in the river is stream enter. That's what Buddha is saying here. They strive with every limb. But someone who has gained a footing and stands on dry land, i.e. the other side, need not strive, for they've reached the further shore. Dhammapalooza, this is a simile for the Brahmin, alert, a meditator who has ended defilements. Since they've reached the end of rebirth and death, they need not strive, for they have reached the far shore. (2.1) with Kamada. I don't know, what is this? 2.6. Ah, boy, Kamada is all over the place, isn't it? Buenas noches, Jose. Good to see you, my friend. Okay. We know Kamada the complainer. At Savatthi, standing to one side, the god Kamada said to the Buddha, "It's too hard, Blessed One. It's just too hard." "They do it even though it's hard," said the Buddha to Kamada. The stable trainees with ethics and immersion, for one who has entered the homeless life, contentment brings happiness. Such contentment, Blessed One, is hard to find. They find it even though it's hard, said the Buddha to Kamada. Those who love peace of mind, whose minds love to meditate day and night. But it's hard, Blessed One, to immerse this mind in samadhi. They become immersed in samadhi even though it's hard, said the Buddha to Kamada. Those who love calming the faculties have cut through the net of death. The noble ones, Kamada, go on their way. But this path, Blessed One, is rough and hard to travel. Though it's rough, hard to travel, the noble ones, Kamada, go on their way. The ignoble fall head first on a rough path. But the path of the noble ones is smooth, for the noble ones are smooth amid the rough. Panchakala Chanda. At Savatthi, standing to one side, the god Panchalachanda recited this verse in the Buddha's presence. The opening amid confinement was discovered by the Buddha of vast intelligence, who woke up to jhana, the sage, the solitary bull. Even amid confinement, they discover, said the Buddha to Panchalachanda, the principle for attaining extinguishment. Those who have acquired mindfulness are perfectly serene in samadhi. There you go, right? From that earlier question. Ye sating panchalata sangsu sammate susamitati. Those who have acquired mindfulness are perfectly serene in samadhi. (2.8) with Tayana at Savatthi. Then, late at night, the glorious god Tayana, formerly a religious founder, lighting up the entire Jaitas grove, went up to the Buddha, bowed, stood to one side, and recited these verses in the Buddha's presence. Strive and cut the stream. Dispel sensual pleasures, Brahman. A sage who doesn't give up sensual pleasures is not reborn in a unified state. If one is to do what should be done, one should staunchly strive. For the life gone forth when laxly led just stirs up dust all the more. A bad deed is better left undone, for it will plague you later on. A good deed is better done, one that does not plague you. When kusa grass is wrongly grasped, it only cuts the hands. So too the ascetic life, when wrongly taken, drags you to hell. Any lax act, any corrupt observance, or suspicious spiritual life is not very fruitful. That's what the god Tayana said. Then he bowed and respectfully circled the Buddha, keeping him on his right side before vanishing right there. Then when the night passed, the Buddha told the mendicants all that had happened. Mendicants, tonight the glorious god Tayana, formerly a religious founder, lighting up the entire Jaitas grove, came to me, bowed, stood to one side, and recited these verses in my presence. The Buddha repeated the full verse, adding, that's what the god Tayana said. Then he bowed and respectfully circled me, keeping me on his right side before vanishing right there. Mendicants, learn these verses of Tayana. Memorize the verses of Tayana. Remember the verses of Tayana. These verses are beneficial and relate to the fundamentals of the spiritual life. Anybody left in the chat? The chat is quite dead. I guess everybody's just listening. Or you fell asleep during the meditation and you haven't woken up yet. But one or the other. Well, Adriana, I know you're still here. All right. So, 2.9, the moon. Chandima. At Savatthi. Now at the time, the moon god had been seized by Rahu, lord of the demons. Then the moon god, recollecting the Buddha at that time, recited this verse. Homage to you, Buddha hero. You're everywhere free. I've wandered into confinement by my refuge. Then the Buddha addressed Rahu in verse concerning the moon god. The moon god has gone for refuge to the realized one, the perfected one. Rahu, release the moon. Buddhas have compassion for the world. Adriana was Googling kusa grass. All right, it probably has spikes. So then Rahu, having released the moon, rushed to see Vepachiti, lord of the demons, and stood to one side, shocked and awestruck. Vepachiti addressed him in verse, why the rush? Rahu, you released the moon, and came here looking like you're in shock. Why do you stand there so scared? My head would have exploded in 7 pieces. I would have found no happiness in life if, when enchanted by the Buddha's spell, I had not released the moon. Number 10, the sun. At Savatthi. Now at that time the sun god had been seized by Rahu, lord of the demons. Then the sun god, recollecting the Buddha at that time, recited this verse. Homage to you, Buddha hero. You're everywhere free. I've wandered into confinement. Be my refuge. Then the Buddha addressed Rahu in verse concerning the sun god. The sun god has gone for refuge to the realized one, the perfected one. Rahu, release the sun. Buddhas have compassion for the world. He shines a light in the darkness, the blazing sun, circle of magnificent flame. Rahu, do not swallow him as he traverses the sky. Rahu, release my progeny, the sun. So the reason why he says progeny, the one of the statements that you see, maybe does it say it? Man, probably not. So progeny, right, is like your relative, your child, right? So that one of the names for the Buddha is the kinsman of the sun, which is a really cool name. I like it. So that's what this is in reference to, the kinsman of the sun. Then Rahu, having released the sun, rushed to see Vepachati, lord of the demons, stood to one side, shocked and awestruck. Vepachati addressed him in verse. Why the rush, Rahu? You released the sun and came here looking like you're in shock. Why do you stand there so scared? My head would have exploded in 7 pieces. I would not have found joy in life if, when enchanted by the Buddha's spell, I did not release the sun. Rahu is the darkness that covers over the moon and the sun, right? The explanation for eclipse, right? That's what's happening. First the moon was eclipsed, then the sun was eclipsed. Samyutta Nikaya 211. Chandimasa. At Savatthi, then late at night, the glorious god Chandimasa, lighting up the entire Jeta's grove, went up to the Buddha, bowed, stood to one side, and recited this verse in the Buddha's presence. Like a deer in a mosquito-free marsh, it will remain a safe place. Having entered the jhanas, unified, alert, and mindful, like fish when the net is cut, they will reach the far shore, having entered the jhanas, diligent with vices discarded. Number 12, with Vishnu. Standing to one side, the god Vishnu recited these verses to the Buddha's presence. Happy are the children of Manu, who pay homage to the Holy One. They apply themselves to Gautama's instructions, diligently training. Those who practice absorption in accord with the training, said the Buddha to Vishnu, in the way of teaching I've proclaimed, they are in time to be diligent. They won't fall under the sway of death. Yeah. This is quite the way to show the Buddha's superiority to the Brahmanic gods, huh? Same thing with Brahma worshiping the Buddha as well. "13, with Dighalati. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, the squirrel's feeding ground. Then late at night, the glorious god Dighalati, lighting up the entire bamboo grove, went up to the Buddha, bowed, stood to one side, and recited this verse in the Buddha's presence. Suppose a mendicant is a meditator free in mind. If they want to reach the heart's peace, having known the arising and passing of the world, healthy-minded, independent, that is their reward. And I think we will end there because we're at 55, an hour and 55 minutes, which means that we have only a little bit of time left. So we will do where is it? There it is. So we're going to do our sharing of merits. Dukkha patta chani dukkha, bhaya patta chani bhaya, soka patta chani soka, hontu sabbe pipaniyo, etavata cha mehi, sampadang punya sampadang, sabbe deva anumodantu, sabba sampatti siddhya, akachatta chabumata, devanaga mahiddika, punyang tang anumoditva, charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fearful fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share in this merit that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends, we have come to the end of yet another Dhammapalooza. So, if you haven't already, while the channel is still alive, if you like what I do on the channel, please like and subscribe and click the bell and do all that jazz, so that when the channel gets banned again by YouTube, that it'll all go away. And so we have Dhammapalooza every Monday. Now they'll be coming up, and sometimes here in the next couple of months where I might not be available to be on the computer, and I'll make sure that people know that well in advance. If I travel to different places and be away, that I won't be able to do it. But at least for the next month or so, should be still able to do this every month, every week. So join us next week. And as long as the channel is up, we'll still continue to do morning monastery experience. Every morning, except for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So the schedule is changing because my conditions have changed. I'm not on the farm, so the schedule changes. So that would be Saturday to Tuesday. We do it a half hour of precepts, chanting, and then also a little thought of the day, a little Dhamma talk. So that's those days from 8:30. So if you click on the bell and subscribe and all that, you'll get an email whenever I go live. So it makes things easier. If you are interested in the learning about the early Buddhist texts and practicing with them as the framework, you can join our online Sangha on the Discord program. You can send an email to magaseka@gmail.com to join us. You can also check out website, magaseka.com. There you go. All right, friends, until next time, Sukhihotu, may you be happy, practice well, and be well. May you have a spiritually successful and peaceful week. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you again. Have a good week.